Hi, my name is Charles Malki, biologist and plant expert with Ivory Organics, where we grow cool plants. And today we're going to be working on, and the lesson is step 1 to grafting a 10 plus or more fruit tree with peaches, plums, apricots, almonds, nectarines, and more. And the more could be cherries. And I'm hoping you guys can share with me some ideas on fruit trees that are in the Prunus family that I should consider grafting onto this tree to my left, which we're going to be visiting shortly. Before we begin, I want to invite all of you in the Los Angeles area to come down and visit and meet with me, as I'm going to be basically presenting and educating people on the Ivory Organics products at the Atawalt Lumber location, located at 11060 West Pico Boulevard in Los Angeles. I'm going to put that address down at the bottom of the screen, and this will be on April 28 and 29, 2018. For the grand reopening event. So we'll be there on Saturday and Sunday between the hours of 11 and 3 p.m. and I'm looking forward to hopefully meeting all of you that live in the area during those hours and on those dates. And now let's get started with our step 1 to grafting a fruit tree with more than 10 varieties. Check out this tree. So before you get started, make sure you do your research. I selected this variety fruit tree from the local nursery because of all the suckers that I found at the bottom. If you take a look over here, my goal was to basically create 2, 3, maybe 4 suckers that I'd then be grafting upon. But this here is what attracted me to the tree. But I want to share with you quickly also before we get started this label over here which says Santa Rosa Plum. And if you read down below here, it says, "This fruit needs a pollinator. See back for details." And it says grow three together, which we'll talk about that in a moment. And it says use one of these varieties below for pollination. And over here, there's a list of more plum varieties. My recommendation to you is don't just rely on the label. The grower wants to sell more than one fruit trees, and it's unfortunate that they would say that this tree needs a pollinator when the majority of the research you'll find online, if you take a look here, here's a Santa Rosa Plum from Willis Orchards. And again, I found this on a dozen other websites that says that this tree is self-fertile, meaning one fruit tree will be sufficient for producing fruit. Compared to, there's another type of plum tree, among others. And here's a Satsuma, a very popular, a sold plum tree that, again, from the same source, Willis Orchards, right? Satsuma plum needs a pollinator. And so if you are to successfully have Satsuma plums within your garden, it may be a good idea to have a Santa Rosa plum to help with the cross-pollination, as we've done in another corner of our property. But this is misinformation, unfortunately, and I just want, again, to remind you that you're going to have to do some of your own research in addition to some of these labels that are misleading sometimes. But with that being said, the goal is ultimately, once I have this 10 plus fruit tree and once we've got plums that are on there, we're going to want to make sure that we have both Santa Rosa plums cross-pollinating with the Satsuma variety of plums so that both of them, again, the Satsuma doesn't need the cross-pollination, but the Satsuma will benefit from it and result in better yields than it otherwise would without the cross-pollination from a Santa Rosa or other plum variety to help with the cross-pollination. So my first step is, and I shared this with my 8-year-old daughter, I asked her what would be something dramatic, that if I did something dramatic to this tree, what would that be? And she said, cutting it in half would be dramatic. I'm like, well, we're going to do something even more dramatic today. And I hope this doesn't shock too many of you. But for those of you that have been following me, I've done dramatic stuff and I've produced some pretty amazing results in the garden. And I'm going to share one of those with you shortly. But what we're going to do is we're basically going to bring this entire tree down to the base with the idea of creating a lot of sucker growth. And we're going to basically graft upon that sucker growth. My step 1 to you is I want you guys to visualize what will this tree look like in 2 to 5 years from now. In what direction are these branches going to grow? How is it going to look? How tall is it going to be? How wide is it going to be allowed to grow? And to help with that visualization, I brought these stakes over here. And the goal being that each one of these suckers could represent one of these bamboo stake. So I'm going to position one bamboo stake here. I'm going to do another bamboo stake here. And keep in mind, each one of these will represent one of the suckers and another flavor of fruit tree all growing on one root. We're going to talk about the benefits of having one root versus putting multiple fruit trees in the same hole. As we saw over here, it says in the corner, grow 3 together. This goes along the concept, and we've done this also in the past, where we put 2 fruit trees in a hole. You can put 3 fruit trees in a hole. You can maybe even do 4 fruit trees in a hole, but how far do you go? There's a point where these roots are going to ultimately compete with one another. There's going to be a manageability issue, as maybe some of those rootstocks are not all of the same variety. So when planting multi-variety or many fruit trees within one hole, you got to make sure that the rootstocks are also compatible and of the vigor. For example, dwarf rootstocks group together, semi-dwarf rootstocks group together, and then standard rootstocks group together. In this example, I'm going to be able to do way more than 4 fruit trees because we're going to be grafting those, and I'm going to explain to you how in just a moment. So again, using these bamboo stakes, I'm trying to visualize where these branches are going to go and how I'm going to pull them and direct them and steer them to create. If I did 3 and I'm leaning towards doing 3, it would probably be in this pattern. If I did 4, my concern is that it just might be too many, but maybe 4 is what we end up with. We still have time to visualize all this as we graft upon it, as we select from these different suckers. My goal is to basically narrow it down to somewhere between 3, and if there was 3, I definitely foresee that I'm going to have 1 branch here, 1 branch back there, 1 going towards the gazebo to my left, and then maybe a 4th branch going in this direction. So my first advice to you is, you're the artist. You need to visualize where the plant's going to be, which branches are going to be left to exist, and how are you going to pull them in a position. And we have a lesson that we're going to discuss that in just a moment. So that's our first tip. So now let's get started. Let's do the actual prune to encourage all of the energy in the root to basically feed and benefit those suckers. So let's get started. So if you come in a little closer, you can see where all these suckers are coming from. The goal is to remove the top and to keep as many suckers as possible. And we may even thin out some of these suckers as well. So let's come in, and we're simply going to prune like so. What we're going to do next is we're going to now seal this wound, as this wound will take an average of 1 and possibly up to 3 years to heal over. And it's going to heal over as these branches basically grow and expand and get large enough to basically heal over that wound that we just created. We're going to heal this plant and basically seal it and prevent the entryway of beetles, termites, and also other disease and pathogens from entering. As you can see over here, the goal is to basically protect it from being invaded, with the idea that we're wanting to make sure that the plant remains healthy and heals over without the entryway of any of these pests. As you can see at many parks or other places where there's pruned branches, when they're not protected and it takes many years to heal over, a lot of times you'll notice that the beetles and termites will enter, and after another 5 or 10 years that tree might topple over, and you may notice that it has since hollowed out because of all of the disease that entered within, typically a pruned branch that worked its way into the heart of the wood and began hollowing it out. To protect the plant, what we're now going to use is the Ivory Organics product. Let's quickly seal it using one of these products that I have here to my left. What I have here is the Ivory Organics 3-in-1 Plant Guard, protection against damaging sunburn insects and rodents, registered material for use in organic agriculture. And we're going to start off with color white. It's also available in colors green and brown. Or you can also use this as a whitewash formula, which is basically an oil-free formula. The oils that you'll find in the otherwise yellow labels include castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. So let's start off with one of these that I've already added water to. So for this specific project, I'm using the yellow label again for the added benefits against insects and rodents. The oils that are within this product will help serve as a repellent to keep anything from entering it as it eventually heals over. So we're just going to coat that surface like so. That's it. What we can also do, if there's any risk of extreme temperatures that are in the mid and even low 90s and above, especially as it approaches 100 and depending on your climate, you can use something like this, which is a 3-in-1 ready to use spray, where you can simply shake it and spray the entire plant. The reason you would do this, and you can see on here that it's got like a very light white sunblock, organic sunblock protection. It's basically derived from the 3-in-1 product from the can. You can use the can and basically dilute it down. There's directions on the back where you can use the product over here as a brush on versus a foliar spray versus as a tree paste, depending on how much water you add to the product. But if you're looking for a ready to use spray, we've got that as well, where you can apply it to, since now the tree is lacking a canopy, you're going to want to protect these underlying suckers. You can also use this on all of your tomato and pepper plantings, any of your roses. So now that the tree is lacking a canopy, there could be the added benefit of protecting these suckers so that they don't get exposed to too much sun, resulting in sunburn and possibly compromising the health and the vigor of these suckers. You can also use this foliar spray on even your tomatoes, your peppers, your roses, all your fruits and vegetable plantings, all of your transplants, your repotting, everything else to help minimize sun stress and any transplant shock. Let's get on with the next step. So let's quickly go to a local park, and I did a episode where we recorded some termite and beetle and even ants that are colonizing within a tree. Let me share with you a couple of images off of that first. Check this out. And today we're here at the Griffith Park, and I was just going for a walk, but I just had to share this tree that's here at the park. And if you take a look, this large opening was once a branch that was pruned from the tree at least 10 years ago, possibly even 20. And I just want to show you the damage within the tree. And it's in the process of being hollowed out by termites and beetles. Take a look at all of these holes in here. And if you zoom in a little closer, you can even see the ants that are trailing in and out of these tunnels. And I've seen a lot of these ants carrying eggs and food and all these different particles within the plant. The reason I'm bringing you out here is I'm trying to share the importance of coating your plant with the Ivory Organics 3-in-1 Tree Guard paint product, and I'm going to share that with you real quick. Check this out. So when pruning, the goal again is we brought it down, and again what attracted me to this particular plant that I selected was the number of suckers I saw near the base. There's a very good root ball that also existed, so there's a lot of vigor and strength within the tree, and the goal is all of that is going to go into these suckers, and we're going to get several feet of growth per branch per year, because I'm also working with, and I kind of mentioned this at the beginning, since you're the artist, you got to decide what kind of plant am I going to start off with. I start off with a standard size rootstock. So the goal is we're gonna end up with a plant that's gonna be somewhere between 15 to 20 feet. And again, if I didn't prune it, it can probably even exceed 20 feet. But my ultimate end vision with this plant is to have a tree that's about 15 to 20 feet tall and supporting at least 10 fruit trees, maybe even 20, knowing me. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna select off of these suckers about 3 to 4 of the best branches that we're gonna graft upon. If any one of these grafts fail for whatever reason, we'll still have other ones. As you can see, we've got a lot of suckers to work with. And again, that was the reason I selected this. What we're gonna do now, starting here we are now at the end of April, what we're gonna do is we're going to be using a grafting method known as approach grafting, which you can do through spring, summer, and early fall during the growing seasons. And then what we'll do at the late winter, after the chance of frost has passed and before the plant resumes growth in the following spring, what we'll do is a method known as cleft grafting. And that's a real easy way to get a lot more grafts onto the plant and at a lot faster rate than the approach grafting method that you may have seen in other videos. And I'm going to share a result with you in just a moment. So again, the 2 tips I want to share with you is that the approach grafting method you can do through spring, summer, and early fall. And then the cleft grafting, which is my second favorite way of grafting, is reserved for later winter and those last few weeks before the plant basically comes out of its hibernation and dormancy. So some of you may remember the publication we did about 2 years ago with the OMG Why Cut the Giving Fig Tree. We had an excellent producing green fig variety in the corner of our property, which we cut down to less than a foot off the ground. Since then, it created several suckers, and let me share those results with you now. Follow me. So here we are now, about 2 years later, with our now 6-in-1 fig, and we've even got 3 more varieties that some of you shared with me that'll be working its way into this tree. But we now get to enjoy this year, about a year and a half later, we're now finally going to get to enjoy 6 varieties of fig this later spring and early summer. And let's start off with the varieties that we've grafted on, starting with this over here. You can see that we've got is the Cadota green fig. On this side over here, we've got the Panache tiger fig. Back here, we've got the brown turkey fig. On this side over here, we've got the celestial purple fig. And on this little corner over here, we've got the Chicago black hardy fig. And right up in this corner, we've got the green Isha fig. So those are the 6 varieties of fig. And as you can see, this all started, if you come back, and I'm hoping you can maybe get a little closer, but it all started with this prune that we did about 2.5 years ago, where this basically controlled the main tree trunk. Since then, it created this fork, and from there it created these additional branches, and each one of these branches resulted in a graft, which again we did using the approach grafting method. You can actually still see the evidence of the graft if you take a look over here in this corner. You can see that the green Isha fig is right here. This here is the graft of the green Isha, and what we have not done after removing the graft is we haven't sealed it with the Ivory Organics 3-in-1 plant guard. So again, we're going to take the same product and we're going to use it to now seal and prevent the risks of any pests entering and colonizing within these cracks and crevices that exist within the graft. My recommendation, and a lot of other growers advise against typically using tar or latex paint, as those will trap moisture and possibly contribute towards rot to the underlying wood. This here does not have latex in it, nor does it function as tar. And the other benefits is both tar and latex paint are designed to last forever, whereas the tree trunk and the branches are typically shedding their bark on average every 1 to 3 years. Paint and tar is designed to last for decades, so all of that's going to wind up in your soil. So again, another benefit for using the Ivory Organics plant guard products. But here we're just going to now seal those wounds like so, and basically ensure that it's going to remain pest free. And I'm just going to work my way all the way around and underneath this entire graft union. I kind of saved this because I wanted to do this with you guys, and now we finally did. The other thing too I want to share with you, because we're going to talk about design, my other tip when it comes to designing your tree is to consider, since we're going to basically take that plum tree that we started with over there and design it to basically support 10 or more fruit trees, and we're all going to start off of about, my guess is 3 branches, possibly 4. The way we're going to accomplish this is every 2 to 3 feet of growth, and this is my next tip to you. Every 2 to 3 feet of growth, try to create a fork. You may sometimes need to pinch the tip in order to encourage a second branch, but the goal is to allow one of those branches to continue to grow and use the second branch or that second fork for grafting the new variety onto it. The example being, if we can take one of these starter figs, if you can take a look at over here, I can simply take another flavor of fig like so and now graft it onto, if we take a look back here, on this brown turkey fig, we've got 1, 2, and a 3rd branch back here, but I can now take one of these branches and graft another flavor using the approach graft, which you can see over here. And I can share with you the techniques at the end of this video. I'll give you the links to all of that. But the goal is we can do an approach graft and transform this brown turkey fig branch into whatever flavor this new fig variety is. I've got, like I said, about 3 to 5 other varieties and more on the way to basically turn this fig into a multi variety fig variety as well. One other tip I want to share with you as well while I'm here and in the garden is, let's take a look at the way this started. This here is the Saman green fig that we started off with, which has been in the family for well over 40 years, which I believe originally came from Yugoslavia or one of the neighboring Russian countries by my grandfather, who brought a cutting to Los Angeles, which then worked its way into Orange County and eventually made its way into dozens of families, including my own. So this here, we call it the Saman green fig, and then we grafted it at this point with the Chicago Hardy, and then the Chicago Hardy is supporting the green Isha that is over here. What I want to share as another point for those of you that are grafting is to make sure that that vigor within the branch is not taken away from the grafted flavor that we're trying to create on the branch. If you come in a little closer, what you'll see over here where the green Isha is on the back side, there's a Chicago Hardy branch coming out. And we don't want the vigor in the branch going to the non-grafted variety. This is the branch that we're dedicating to the green Isha, so we're going to remove the Chicago black variety off of that so that all of the energy reserves from the roots that are going into this branch support this branch. And here's another, we can call it a sucker, as it's sucking the energy away from the green Isha branch. So this will come off as well. This here is the Chicago Hardy. This here is the green Isha. Back here again, as we said, is the Celestial fig. But you can see that these three are too close to one another. And again, you guys being the artist, and you're going to watch me do this as well, is that we're going to start pulling this branch carefully back into position and filling up an area that's in this zone. So even though we've got 3 branches that are looking pretty tight, as we enjoy these flavors later on this spring and early summer, you're going to notice that these branches are all going to be pulled into its respective zone so that all of the leaves maximize on sunlight to create the maximum capacity of figs. And check out this first fig that we've got here on our tree. If you found this video informative and educational, be sure to like it, and most importantly, by subscribing down below, you'll be connected to this and all of our other educational gardening videos. Thanks again for watching, and happy gardening, and looking forward to seeing all of you at the Atawalt re-grand opening tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday in Los Angeles, between the hours again of 11 and 3 o'clock. Again, wishing you all a wonderful weekend, and again, happy gardening.